Opinion Nation, can a Roseanne episode heal America's Muslim bias? In the words of Entertainment Weekly, Roseanne, the TV show, needs a buzz boost. Roseanne's show has lost 43% of its audience since President Trump dialed up Roseanne to congratulate her on a primo premiere. Roseanne hopes to regain ratings momentum with tonight's episode. It's called The Muslims Next Door.
Roseanne, get in here. What? You can't just stand on the front porch staring at your Muslim neighbors.
Roseanne said, what if a Muslim family lives next door? And all the writers looked at each other for about 5 seconds and went, yeah, we're doing that.
Anytime something bad happens, it's always somebody who lives next door to somebody.
She's frightened of living next to Muslims because she has heard so many things on the news.
Oh, my God, Mom. You have no reason to believe those people want to hurt you. They'd have to get to know you first.
She starts from being very fearful from this family that moved in next door that she doesn't know.
Nice work, Jackie.
And when she gets to know them, she realizes there's probably more similarities than differences.
We're from Yemen.
Oh, good. Yemen's not even on the travel ban list.
Yes, it is.
I don't think about, oh, how can I break any new territory? I just thought it would be really relevant for a show about immigrants and prejudice.
Sorry about that.
So we find a way to cut to the humanity of each other.
Roseanne pushed to get this episode on the air as a, quote, comeuppance for her personal bias against Muslims, a bias perhaps born because of the man she supports, President Trump. Here's Mr. Trump on a radio talk show expressing his disdain for Muslims when he claimed President Obama's birth certificate was fake.
He doesn't have a birth certificate, or if he does, there's something on that certificate that is very bad for him. Now, somebody told me, and I have no idea whether this is bad for him or not, but perhaps it would be, that where it says religion, it might have Muslim. And if you're a Muslim, you don't change your religion, by the way.
Critics might say because of Roseanne's ardent real-life and on-screen support of President Trump, she's in no position to talk about bigotry in America. Still, Opinion Nation, can a Roseanne episode heal America's Muslim bias? Please share your thoughts on my Facebook page or tweet me at Carol HLN. Please join the conversation with my guests. Erick Erickson is editor of The Resurgent and Arsalan Iftikhar, editor of themuslimguide.com. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Carol.
Arsalan, I'll start with you. Do you think this episode will help?
You know, Carol, to be honest, I have less of a problem with the fictional Roseanne Connor as I do with the real-life Roseanne Barr. I think it's important to keep in mind that context is important. You know, here is somebody who has spent the better part of the last few years on Twitter, you know, disparaging not only Muslims, but transgender people and undocumented immigrants and Democrats. And she has equated Islam with Nazism. She has made fun of Parkland school shooting survivors. So again, you know, I know she's trying to sort of reboot herself as a millennial version of Archie Bunker, but I think it's really important to keep in mind who the messenger in this case is, as well as the message itself.
Erick, in your mind, is she at least trying?
Listen, I think if she's trying and she wants to show that your Muslim neighbor is just like you and me, then God bless her for doing it. I definitely do think, having grown up in the Middle East and from 5 to 15, that Muslim neighbors in this country are rather uncommon, but increasingly more common. Show that they're just like the rest of us. That's a good thing. But, you know, also I think there is something to be said for the fact that she's trying to gather buzz for her show that isn't doing as well as was expected. I mean, when the show launched, suddenly there were all sorts of conversations about, hey, we need more retro shows like this catering to Trump voters, and turns out even the Trump voters didn't like to keep watching.
Is that the case? Was it the Trump voters? Because, Arsalan, I hear you, because Roseanne Barr appeared on, well, she got into this weird spat with Stormy Daniels, right? And it's so foul. Their exchanged tweets that I can't even show you because I can't say that on television because it would be wrong. So is that part of the reason why? Is it conservatives or is it liberals no longer watching? Because I can't figure it out at the moment.
I don't know, Carol, to be quite honest with you. And I think, again, it's important to keep in mind that we cannot, you know, detach Roseanne Barr from the character of Roseanne Connor. You know, it's you know, she has made her living in the last few years, you know, before the reboot, again, making these controversial statements. And I think, again, Carol, as an American Muslim, and for the 7 million American Muslims living in the United States, I think what's most problematic is the premise of the entire episode. Again, here's the tired, stereotypical trope of, you know, your Muslim neighbors next door potentially being terrorists. Oh, wait, they're not terrorists. Haha, that's not funny. Again, you know, that's the moral equivalent of having an episode about African-American neighbors thinking that they might be gang members, or white people might be, you know, being neo-Nazis.
Yeah, but Arsalan, that could be All in the Family, who is, that show is widely, you know, you lived next door at the Jeffersons. They were black. They didn't understand each other. Archie Bunker was afraid of them. He had prejudices.
He did,
and,
but
and
again,
in the 70s it worked, so why wouldn't it work now?
Well, because it's the year 2018, Carol. And again, you know, again, what the subconscious message that this is sending is that, you know, your Muslim neighbors might be guilty until proven innocent. So if they have fertilizer on their front yards, or if, you know, if you see moving in the middle of the night, that you should be suspicious. And then, you know, you might have a meet cute at the end, you know, where you realize that they're, you know, not something to be afraid of. But again, it's that presumption of guilt again, the stereotypical trope again, that Muslims are always seen within a terrorism vantage point.
I'm just going to dare say something, because sometimes it is as simple as that. Is meeting someone who's different from you, who lives next door, and finding out that they're not so different. That's sometimes that's all that it takes, right?
Now, I haven't seen the episode. It hasn't come out yet, but I think that's kind of the point of the episode, is that your neighbors, whether they're Muslim or not, shouldn't be presumed guilty until innocent. And the show pokes fun at the idea of, from what we're led to believe, that there are people out there who do believe this. And yes, it's 2018, but a conversation that you had about gays in the 90s or blacks in the 70s with Archie Bunker is somewhat relevant now as the Muslim community grows in this country. And more Americans are encountering people who, I mean, their first consciousness of Islam was probably 9/11, and they need to be disabused of the notion that your Muslim neighbor is a terrorist. And I think, to that degree, I think if this can work with this episode, that's a good thing.
So, Arsalan, I mean, I understand the statements that Roseanne Barr has said in the past and why they would upset you. I totally get that. But she admitted in that, right on camera, that she wants a comeuppance for the things that she has said in the past, and that's why she's decided to do this particular episode.
Right, and I think, you know, when she has a comeuppance about transgender people and about undocumented immigrants and other people that she's disparaged, then, you know, we can have another discussion here. Again, I think that, you know, if she's doing this for ratings, that's good, and if it's a comeuppance for her, you know, and if she's sincere about it, and she doesn't, you know, continue as the private Roseanne Barr tweeting things like Islam is Nazism and disparaging Muslims and, you know, things like that, that's a different story. But again, you can't take this episode out of the historical context of Roseanne Barr and her Islamophobia that has been rampant for the last decade.
Is that true, Eric? I mean, can you say stuff in the past and never try to seek forgiveness or understanding?
You know,
it's just always out there.
I actually wrote a book about this. One of the problems we have in the 21st century with social media is we anchor people to the past bad statements they've had, and then we say, well, we can't believe them now because of their bad past statement. And all that does is it gives everybody an incentive to never move beyond their past statements. We should actually be commending people as they grow up and push aside their past and awaken to some being a better person.
Have you watched the Roseanne show, Eric? I'm just curious.
No, listen, you know, I realized they were catering this towards conservative voters, but Roseanne has never been, I mean, I don't think she's a conservative, and I just felt like I was being talked down to by the development of the show, that we were going to scratch the itch of conservatives who just have to have themselves on TV. And I would rather watch something and be entertained as opposed to being either preached to or preached with.
So you don't think Roseanne Barr is a conservative, Eric?
No, I don't think so. She and I have, we've dusted up in the past on social media. I'm not quite sure what she is. She certainly likes President Trump, but she's not a conservative. Never has been.
What do you think, Arsalan? I'm curious now.
Oh, I don't think Roseanne Barr knows what Roseanne Barr is. I think that, you know, she's been on both polar extremes, and I think that she's literally all about Roseanne Barr and what's going to get her some retweets or some ratings.
Well,
I agree with that.
Oh, see? That's beautiful. I'm going to end it there. And I just want a caveat to, so Roseanne Barr's ratings have dropped, but she's still attracting 10 million people, and that's a lot in modern times on television. Erick Erickson, Arsalan Iftikhar, thanks to you both.